All right. We're going to start with the creative brief and talk about this project as we go forward. In this particular example, the student worked on a painting company, and it talks about the client, very quick and easy to read, understanding the client. Here I can clearly and quickly understand who the audience is and what their wants are, and then the ad campaign. But most importantly, within this ad campaign, I'm really going to focus on this message here, right there. So now this is a bit of a lengthy message. I'll quickly read it. The customer will get the highest possible quality, the longest and best warranty in the industry. Hiring HOA Painting is risk-free, zero down. If you're not happy, you don't have to pay, period. Now that's a mouthful. There's so many different ideas going on in this message. It's going to be very challenging for that student to work through every single statement she's making within this message. So having worked with this student, we narrowed things down to basically, you're going to get as a customer, you're going to get the highest possible quality with the best warranty in the industry. That was the central focus. We added, as you'll see in a bit, to the storyboard some of these other ideas, but we didn't necessarily come out directly and say it. We wanted to create a overall to-the-point message. So that's one of the first challenges you're going to have in this project when starting your storyboard. Take your message and try to simplify it to a singular idea, and everything else supports that idea. This is our creative brief. I'm going to jump over to the concepts part. Now this is that visual sentence. I believe it was step 3 in the actual assignment. Each of these images represents a concept in the student's central message. And if I was a tester of this, she would present it to me, and I'd be going, a dilapidated house, HOA painting, there's an agreement, I'm not paying, it's all done and I'm satisfied, and I guess I'm finally paying HOA. In this one, HOA painting, pinky shake. So there's some sort of, secret pact there going on in my mind. There's some people working. So basically, after I create a little secret pact with HOA, I'm working on something here, their house, their building. I'm a happy customer because they're working on my problem. Problem is I need new paint on my siding. And because I'm happy, I'm going to actually pay them. So as you can see, this one's starting to work a little bit better than that first one. But this is kind of saying, secret agreement a little bit too much, in my opinion. So as I go through these, I'm just kind of going and saying, all right, each of these represents this to me. And that's the idea behind creating these. Now, you're going to be asking 6 different people what your visual line means for each one of these sentences, or iconic sentences, if you would. And you're going to be documenting those results in a sketchbook, on a piece of paper, on a notebook. It doesn't matter. So that's the next thing I'm going to show you here. So once we finish this, you're going to start testing people on this. So here is the testing on this. We document the student or the person that we are testing, and you can see from the 6 messages, the person said unpainted wall and HOA, warm and painter friendly. I can barely read it, but basically she's documenting what's happening or what the user is feeling is happening in that visual sentence. So she finishes with Kyle and she goes to Jacob. Then there's Thomas over here and David. So it's not that hard, but you are starting to recognize what's working and what's not throughout this process. So there are several pages or 2 pages to this. And basically, she is trying to derive a final idea. High quality, no risk, happiness, guaranteed, which is a mixture of numbers 3 and 6. Going back over here, a mixture of number 3, this line, and number 6, this line. So she's going to then recreate a visual image from these two and start her storyboard. We started with the creative brief. We created our basic visual concepts. We tested those concepts, but now I'm going to actually start creating that storyboard. So as I was saying earlier in the other video, HOA painting commercial. And that's going to be on every single frame. You can see that's the second frame, 2 of 3. So I want each of these listed and labeled out. Now again, I am not entirely concerned that you are not an artist and maybe you can't draw at all. Most people can draw stick figures. We have that general ability. So that's really what I'm looking for here. Do take a little bit of time, because if your boards are scrappy and unreadable and they just don't look like you've put in any craftsmanship, you're going to be docked points. So please understand that. So within this, she starts off with the basic idea of, I'm going to create a paint splash of what's happening. And you can see that she's created motion lines of where this splat is coming in from. It's coming in from behind the camera. You're going to need to use motion lines within your boards to simply direct motion overall. From that splat, we're going to basically morph into the HOA logo that she had shown initially in the creative brief. From there, we're going to transition into this idea of the HOA representative sitting down with the client to discuss this and that. Now, these are going to be describing various options that the client over here can work with. And then finally, well, I shouldn't say finally, but basically we're going to go into the idea that we're not going to be paying cash until you're satisfied. We're going to create an agreement, visually done via handshake, and then we're going to get busy doing the work itself. So here we have, we're cleaning things up. We're setting up the site so that messes aren't made before we start painting. Again, here's another example of using motion lines to indicate the action overall. So what we're going to do is basically do a tracking in shot here. This is not a zoom. A zoom is going to create a depth of field situation where near and foreground will be blurred at different rates. She's describing basically just moving the camera forward to clip in on the actual worker themselves. After we're done painting, we're going to see a 5-star award of sorts. It's known, the general idea is that 5 stars or stars represent excellence, whether it's 3 stars for eating out at a Michelin restaurant or it's 5 stars at a hotel. In this case, she's using 5 stars as a way to describe the overall job performed on this project. Now, she's also adding little sparkly blings to the house so that we get a better idea or impression that the house is clean or has a fresh look to it. We then are going to transition into the idea that we have a happy client overall. And here we're using text that's going to be coming in from different directions. If you're not, is coming in from the right. Happy's coming in from the left. You don't pay, coming in from the right. And then periods coming back in from the left. Call HOA. And that's basically the idea behind the board. Now, she created initially 5 pages worth of boards, but we went through and axed what didn't need, what was not required within the overall idea. And this has to be treated just like any research paper. The first time you draw it out, you're going to create a lot of content. It's the first draft. You just got the basic ideas on paper. Now we're going to move into a second draft. And all of these drafts, by the way, have to be complete by March 31st and submitted. The second draft, she went through and got rid of frames once she started asking her friends and family, as well as the client. This was actually for someone she knows, how it all was working out visually. And she realized it was a bit lengthy. and there were things that were being shown that didn't need to be shown to communicate that base idea. And what ended up happening is she ended up with just over 2 pages worth of information. That's the general idea behind your storyboard project. Please keep in mind we want to communicate the idea in as clear a way visually as possible. And it's not about creating some epic Steven Spielberg 3 hour movie. We want to just get to the point. And if that means that our television commercial is only 20 seconds long, then that's what it means. It's not about the timing, it's more about, was I effective in communicating my message? There are so many ways that commercials can be distributed now, and different means of distribution, web, mobile, info boards on the highway, as well as on television. All of these are going to have their unique requirements. So I'm not so bound on a time frame. What I am bound on is communicating your core message. So please understand that as you go through this. And as you come across questions, feel free to post them up in the forums. Both myself and the TA will be happy to address them as they come up. So good luck, and I look forward to seeing your finished product.